The impromptu interview that we're having with Richard Grant, and we've planned this since he's come, and this is the last day he's here. We're taking him to the airport at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Anyway, Richard, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Justin, I suppose the reason I came to America, I'd been studying in Australia for about 12 or 13 years, the Walter Russell philosophy, and I could not find anybody there, Justin, who I could talk to about it. They'd never heard of him. It was a complete no-no. So, in desperation, I rang up the president of the university, Michael Hudak, and he put me in touch with you and Spirio and 3 or 4 others. And last November, I decided to come over. So I sent over some Nothing Matters books as an introduction. I sent a video over of my life on the farm, and then I turned up. And Spirio and Justin met me at the Cleveland airport last November, and I said to Spirio and Justin, now I'll be wearing a hat, so you'll be able to pick me up in the crowd pretty easy. So when 1,000 people poured out of that airport, I was looking for somebody who would recognise me. And what do I see is a guy hanging up with a sign, Nothing Matters. And that was my introduction to Ohio, Akron in America.
Yes, and Nothing Matters, for those of you who don't know, is a book, actually Richard Grant's first book that he's written, and very interesting indeed, and it describes his awakening through life. Now Richard, how old are you? How young are you actually?
Well, it doesn't make much difference.
It doesn't make much difference.
I turn 80 in November.
80 in November?
Yeah, that's next month.
Next month,
Yeah.
okay. Now you had talked, we had talked for a while. When did you, I guess, bring us up from, you know, basically, when did you start to make the shift to actually look deep inside yourself for answers?
Okay, Justin, I pondered often where the turning point was. I was always wanting to know, but why? There had to be a cause for things happening, and I searched and searched, and it wasn't until the death of my son in 1986 that I finally got the answer. It was within my own self. It was like being reborn again, and from that point on, I made leaps and bounds in my awakening. It was the turning point of my whole life, and it was the greatest blessing, which is the greatest trauma that we have in our lives, is the greatest blessing we can actually have. They're not traumas, they're blessings, and this, be aware of that.
So in 1989, and we had to discuss this before, that your son died of leukemia, and you basically were holding him in your arms, and that was kind of your awakening in life. Is that what you're...
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was in 1986. It was
86, I'm sorry.
He and I battled with it for 6 months, and we thought we'd beat it, but we didn't. But he left a wife and 1.5 children, and it was a wonderful blessing. And then from there on, I got onto Walter Russell's little book, that little book, The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe. And that was the trigger for me, Justin. It turned my life around, and from that point on, I got the Divine Iliads 1 and 2,
Okay.
and then more books and more books of the Walter Russell philosophy. It was a rapid path from there on.
Okay, now the book we're referring to that Richard had written was called Nothing Matters. This is, here, we'll let you get a better view of it, but this is a story about Richard's awakening, and on the back it says, as a candle illuminates the whole room, the experiences of one person can illuminate all others. One facet of the diamond can reflect light into the whole gem. As one intelligence wakes up, it influences another and another until the entire universe is filled with light. This book is a book with insight others may not have experienced, written with understanding that this is precious from the personal, exciting experience, describing a knowing that surpasses all belief.
Very true.
And then this was his book, and then this is the book he's referring to, The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe, written by Walter Russell. This is a very popular book. You can read this book online at www.philosophy.org. And okay.
Yes, that book came about by when I awakened to the basic cause of creation, which is within man himself. I read a book by Neil Walsh that said that we need to look at our belief systems. He said the churches ought to have a look at their dogma. And he said, I think each individual should have a look at his own belief systems and let's start letting some of them go, analysing it. And I did this, and as I looked at my belief system and let them go, doors opened that never opened before.
Now, explain your belief system, Richard. I mean, you were obviously born and raised in Australia. You had made the kind of... tell us a little bit about that.
All right, I'm one of a family of 9 children, reared on a farm with a lovely mother and father. I think our father had the wisdom of the Sermon on the Mount, and after a period of 50 years I realised the statement he made, that book is named Nothing Matters. He was the one that said nothing matters, and it was at a birthday party when he said this, and he said when it's all boiled down, nothing matters. And old Jack Potts, who lived next door, said, oh Bert, he said that's providing the sun shines. And Dad said, but that don't matter either, Jack. And to me that was the icing on the cake, because there is nothing in this material world that matters. It's a clear reflection of my own consciousness. And as we open up to that awareness, we can change what is out there from within our own self. And, yeah.
So now, brought up with 9 children, family with 9 brothers and sisters, all of you together.
Yeah.
And then you farming, and what was your, I mean, how were you brought up to come to discover, what was it, what was the driving force of you having the wondering, like, because myself, I just can't go through life without wondering what the cause of the effects are, analyzing it right down to the why, you know,
Yes.
Walking through life without even desiring to know what life is. That's something that's always been on my mind. I'm sure it's on other people's. Some tend to admit it less than others. But how did you? What drove you to this? Was it something as a child you were?
All my life, Justin, I wanted to know, but why? But why did this happen? Why couldn't you eat salt? Why? Who was it they that said we can't do these things? Why? And it was a frustrating awakening. I reared on a farm, 100 acres with 9 brothers and 9 in the family, mum and dad, 11 of us. We in the early 30s and 40s, and we were brought up living off the land, and I never had an opportunity to read books or get much schooling or get out there and find out why. And it wasn't until very late in life, at the age of 57, on the death of our son, that I woke up to what life was all about and where the cause was. And when you find the cause of creation, when you understand that cause, it's within man himself. And that is the key to all creation. It's being reborn again. You can put it in as many words as you like,
Right.
but it's exciting stuff. Once you get it, it's some would call it the birth of the Christ within. I call it the prodigal son's return home. You can put it many ways, but
Right.
it is all within man himself. And yes.
All right, Richard. So that was so basically you've kind of given us an update on your a summary of how you were raised with nine kids in a 100-acre farm. So let's go moving past that as
Well, I'll take it from the point of my awakening, which was at the death of our son. At that point in my life, I was 57 years of age. I was in a very chronic, unhealthy state. I had a very bad back. I reckon from heavy lifting and sawmilling and logging. I had been bleeding at the bowels for about 10 years. It was getting worse. I was constipated. I had a sore belly. I had a hiatus hernia. I had prostrate troubles. And I was a heavy smoker, and I was heaving and coughing phlegm up all morning. And because they couldn't fix the back, the chiropractors and the experts said, well, we'll put you on a pension at the age of 57. And for some reason or other, it was only about a week before our son got leukemia that I must have had a shift in consciousness. Something took place, because I tried all my life to give up smoking, and I failed miserably. And just by becoming a different attitude realising that what it was, I was telling myself. So I stopped telling myself I felt like a smoke. And within a week, I couldn't smoke. And I went through the most traumatic period of my life, and that was a turning point. And from that point on, and when I found the answer was within me, and over a period of something like 20 years, I've got rid of all my ailments without doctors, diet, pills or exercise, and I've never enjoyed such a quality of health that I've got now, applying those principles of letting go of the belief systems and working with the cause of the problem from within myself.
And you had mentioned that before, and that is actually you're a living example of this philosophy. What did you start reading, or where did the information come from that triggered after your son's death? What was it that drew you further in, I guess, to your own awakening of tools or books
It was books, Justin, basically books.
Books, okay.
And then I never had time in my life to read, and I had time now to read, and I had time to do something about it. And I took that time, and it was a very short time I came across this little book of Walter Russell's, and that was the book that changed my life from the beginning. And then I progressed on to all these other books, these philosophy, and applied the principles, and married that principle to the Sermon on the Mount.
Okay.
And by combining the two principles, it's almost infallible how it actually works when you put it into practice. I'm a living example. I haven't been to a doctor for 20 years, I don't have a doctor, and I don't need a doctor. I got rid of glasses, I can read. I don't even bother carrying glasses with me now. My eyes have actually got better. But the most amazing part about it all, the exciting part about it all, is the clarity of mind that comes with the letting go of the, I use the word dross. Dross is coal dust on a coal mine. It hinders who he is. It's the same as their old belief system hinder who we are. And when you let everything go, it's in the letting go of. But the clarity of mind that comes with the awakening is amazing, absolutely amazing.
Now, I've had the wonderful opportunity of having Richard here in our home for the past 2 months as a guest, and I must say you are the most spunky 80-year-old I've ever met. Full of life. There's he can keep up with me, and sometimes I feel like I'm even older than you. So it's to see you here and to kind of know your background and to have been able to spend this time with you has really opened up my eyes to a different light.
But Justin, no way out of the mouth has opened up my eyes. And I'm the one that's got the biggest surprise of all, because it amazes me what happens when you start to take control of your life and create a deliberate life, particularly when you know the cause of it. I've found the cause. Each will have to do it his own way, in his own time. It can't be taught, it can't be learned, it can only, I think the main key is in letting go of. And what I'm doing now is I'm working on letting all judgment go. The first step is to let all judgment go, and then the next step is give it no thought to what you let go of.
Okay, now, and something that we've talked about several times in this philosophy that you have been practicing, the letting go of, but we've talked about a lot of reflection, which I talk a lot about perception as being the only thing that man can control, is perception. That means what he sees out there. The perception is if we think we can control any more than perception, that's almost a.
Well, that's rather easily explained, Justin. Perceptions are only stepping stones to the next stage of letting go. When you realise that what we're looking at is a reflection of our own consciousness, when you really realise all life is about is just consciousness, and everything we create a reflection of that consciousness. And when you see it as a reflection instead of a perception, there's a big step, because you can change the reflection very easily by changing what caused the reflection, which is caused from within oneself with your conscious mind. And that is the key to it.
Now let's put this in perspective for the everyday average Joe. Where can you start? I mean, there's a lot of dogma out there. There's a lot of confusing religions. There's a lot of what I see is the blind leading the blind. And where could one start on this journey of kind of an awakening of self, of discovering the what I see as the divine light within not only yourself but that same divine light within others?
The key to it all is to realise that everything starts within oneself and will always finish in oneself. And what we see out there, we've got to be very honest with our own self, gut-wrenchingly honest, and realise that what we are seeing is a reflection of our own consciousness in motion. And the reflection tells us truly who we are. So when you become aware of that what you're seeing and all that dogma out there is stuff that we need to let go of, karma we need to let go and come back to ourselves, knowing it's a reflection of our own consciousness. And when you start working at that level, you use stepping stones to get better at it.
Okay. Well, recently there was a video. What was that video?
No, I don't know that one.
Of course you don't know. Of attraction, the law of attraction. What was that video that was really popular for a while there?
Oh, The Secret.
The Secret.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And in The Secret,
Secret behind The Secret.
well, now let's start with The Secret.
Right.
The Secret, it's how things are attracted, how you attract things into your life. If they went up and the more you fear the bills, the more the bills come.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. How does that? How does this all fit into? I mean, this is going above and beyond what The Secret was talking about. This is actually. Explain more, I guess.
I think what you're getting at, Justin, we've spoken of this before. At the two levels of creation, we can create with the human mind, which is manifest out there that we would like to come into our life.
Okay.
And we create it with an objective thoughts. We create out there. We visualise something out there that we would like to fill up a lack in here. Because we want something, we need something. So
right.
When we want or need something, you've got to understand there's got to be a balancing effect take place within oneself. So you create that new car or new girlfriend or whatever it is you bring into your life, or you have more food, you have more of this and more of that, it never fills the lack that it creates. That is the downside of that. There's several ways of looking at that, so don't take this as gospel because the way I say it is so. It has a deeper meaning, because when you start to look at how the law of attraction works, the basic law of creation is the desire of the Creator within to express. The driving force of that desire is for light to seek light. That is what makes the world go round.
Okay.
We're forever trying to find ourselves within ourselves, forever ending search. So when we search from within our true inner beingness, with our conscious mind within, the inner mind, and work with God at an inner level and see with inner eyes only, and then that conscious creation is transmitted to the subconscious, which is the other side of the cycle, and it will manifest the end result, but it will be in accord with God's balance, the balance of the law within, which is different to working from without.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've actually talked about this on the forum, and in as such that what you see in another is only really a reflection of what's in yourself.
That's right.
Is that an understanding of it?
That's
So if I recognize a flaw or a something wrong with somebody else, I couldn't recognize it if it was none other than myself.
That is right.
Okay.
That is so profound. That is the amazing part of it, is when we realise all we're seeing is a clear reflection of our own consciousness. To me, God is mind or consciousness, and when we see the reflection out there, we see mind in motion, which is God in motion.
Okay.
And that God in motion has been created from within the oneness of who we are. And we get a clear look at actually who we are.
This is a difficult pill to swallow, because in the world today there's so many different gods. We have all these different religions and their different beliefs and faiths of all these different gods, and what we've done is we've kind of created a lot of the religions believe that we're separate from God, and that man is not divine. Man is going to die, and man is body, and so you're saying that we are. Are you saying that we are just as God is, just as?
Absolutely, and Justin. As we awaken to who we are and realise we are true, we are God in motion.
God in motion.
We are God in motion. And when we realise that we are the creator of all that is, and our senses deceive us into thinking what we're seeing is real. In actual fact, it's only a reflection. And when you start realising that, and realise you created the reflection, I claim, and this is as Jesus even said, even the least of you can do as I have done, and much, much more. Move the mountain to see. I can change creation from within my own self. I can change your behaviour, I can change your reaction to me, and it is so simple. All I have to do is change the reflection I've created. And when you know that, it's amazing how it works, because it appears that when you apply this principle, it appears that you, Justin, have changed. But in actual fact, I'm the one that's changed. And this is the most profound part of this awakening. There's no ego attached to it at all. It's exciting stuff as we...
Well, the ego is, when typically when somebody walks in the room, there's always somebody beside them. And this somebody is something that we can't see, but man has seemed mankind, humankind, has placed their identity in the things of the physical world.
That's right.
In separating themselves from the actual spiritual being and the divine being that they actually are. So it's very interesting. And okay, Richard, what's interesting about what you've described here is actually recent findings in biology are that out of the 50 trillion cells we have in our body, that they always thought the nucleus was the control center of a cell. And they're finding out that the cells, having the same systems that a human body does, the endocrine system, the nervous system, all these different systems, and the proteins producing the functions within the body, they're finding that the cells actually receive information in the form of signals that release different proteins that create the DNA, or release the protein from the DNA, which end up creating the circumstances in different things like, so the power of, basically the power of belief, these signals that you send. If you believe you're going to die of cancer, and you fear you're going to die of cancer because granddaddy died of cancer and his great-grandparents had cancer, and once you've sent these signals into the cells then prepare themselves. This is in the physical body, but going further into the cells, it's discovered that there's actually only one. It's a light. It's like a.
Justin, in my own study of it all, we will never ever understand the effect world. This body is basically only a vehicle. In actual fact, it does not exist. It's only an idea of who I am. And it is a divine, ingenious, I'd call it a generator. Actually a generator that generates electricity, it generates gravity, and it generates magnetism.
Okay.
And with our thoughts, with the creator within, which is our consciousness, which is the real who we are, which is all is one. And realising that the one can never be divided. The one and the I is all inclusive, all there is. Everything that is of everything else that is. There is no separation in creation, no matter how you put it. It's impossible.
So we've created the separation. We've created the separation with our thoughts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is actually interesting because, and this is something else that is always weighed on my mind is there's, you can't create a book without first thought.
That's right.
You can't create an invention. You don't create relationships. But this pertains to everything in life. So first the seed of thought, and then the thought manifests itself into a physical reality. So I can see where the reflection actually.
Just to explain that a bit further, this is how I see it, because we all see it a little bit different. So it's okay. We never create anything. We never create this body. We never create that book. The poet never creates the poem. The musician never creates a song. He only creates the idea of it. And that idea resonates with all the other, all of creation. It's a resonance.
Like a vibration?
That's like a vibration, which is
Okay.
a wave. And there is nothing actually ever created. If you really look at a mirror, if you look in the mirror, is the reflection created or not? And this is the same here. You could argue all day and all night whether this is a reflection or whether it's real or unreal. It doesn't matter. See, there is nothing in this world that matters at all. And when we give anything in this world any thought, all we do is give it power to separate us from who we are. So
Right.
it's the primary sin of all creation is separation. So when we judge, give thought to what we judge, from that point on we're separate from God, and we start to build up toxins in the body, everything's out of balance, and you're on a go to nowhere. And it's a primary sin, and when you boil it all down, there are only two facets I need to do at this point in my life, is fear and love. Mm-hmm. And I think to me at this stage, I've pondered what love is, Justin. I'm buggered if I know what it is, but I feel that love is when I can see myself in you, and I can see yourself in me, I'm getting very close to what love is. And that to me...
Balance.
Balance.
And that goes back to balance. Yes. Love being balanced.
Absolutely. The more balanced you are, the more love you are. And it's in that area, yes. But as we deal with the outer world and give it no thought out there, even if you're helping somebody or picking a lady up from the street or whatever you do, if you give it no thought and just be loving and kind from within oneself, without identifying that you're a good Samaritan and you're helping your neighbour, because when you help your neighbour, you deny the neighbour working through his own issues, your ego comes into the picture and it just boosts you up, illusionary, whatever words you like to use, and you're separate from God. But when you deal with any issue out there and have a reason or a purpose for anything out there, it's separate. In my book, it's separation. And I've applied this to my life, Justin, and when you apply it and honest with yourself, I tell you, it's amazing stuff, because the whole world opens up.
Well, it amazes me, yeah.
I'm the one, as I say before, I'm the one that gets the biggest shock of all. I go for a 30-hour flight from here back to Australia in Coffs Harbour, 30 hours flying time, and I know I will arrive there fresh as a daisy with no jet lag and no discomfort because I've got no aches and pains in the body. I know I've done it, this is the third, over and back last year and over this time and back, and it works. The whole concept works. Clarity of mind. I don't know what to
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see somebody walk the talk.
I believe so. I follow that little book called Nothing Matters.
The Nothing Matters.
Yeah, I follow that. I've got another book coming up called Give It No Thought, which is a further effect of that. And it's when we give no reason or thought to what we're creating, we're starting to work with God within, and it will manifest in its truest form. And that is, to me, the icing on the cake.
Yeah, divine inspiration?
Divine, yes. Just
divine inspiration.
Because we have, in our life, everything comes from within. We have been given an abundance in our life, and the abundance is fed from within us. As Jesus said, He has food that we not know of.
Right.
And I believe it comes all from within me. My supply comes from within me. It doesn't come from somebody else or something else. I must always remind myself, I am as one with God, and the supply comes from within me. And there's abundance to it, an abundance.
And that's you know, in our world today, the separation is so. We're all separated, not only from ourselves, but we've divided ourselves into different religions and classes of people, and God is up here and we're down here, and there's no connection there. There's this
When you realise, Justin, as you open up this, and the clarity of mind makes you can see the effect and the further effect. And when you look at the dying man in the desert that is dying of thirst, and the starving nations, they don't die of hunger, and the man in the desert doesn't die of thirst. He dies of the fear of death. And when you understand what fear does to our life, it makes us want to get. And once you get, I'll never get rid of fear out of my life. I think I'll need many, many more trips, but fear is the driving force that separates us from
Well,
God.
absolutely, and it's taught in schools, it's taught in churches, it's taught. We've been taught fear,
Yeah.
and especially now today more than ever in this economy and in this the presidential election and all these things, and it's fear, and the media just fear, pull your money out of the bank. Everything is it seems like the wheels are turning not on love but fear.
But when you are honest with yourself, Justin, we see the issues that are unfolding today in America, of all places, and they're unfolding rapidly, and we can see that we're going to have problems. But when you are honest with yourself and see the problems are not out there, they're within man himself, within my own self. When I see an obese person in the street, I see a man that's a beggar in the street, it's a reflection of my own fear. And when I deal with that fear in here, I don't seem to notice that out there, and I don't give it power to manifest. And this is the most important awakening of all time, when we don't give power away from who we are and create a poverty consciousness. We create the beggar. Realise, if you see a beggar in the street, how do you know that beggar, we saw one today, how do you know there's not a soul come to experience the life of a beggar? How do you know? And he's there just the same as you and I. And when you understand there is no good or bad in creation, there's no right or wrong, there's no better or lesser than, there's no happiness, joy and agony or suffering, they are all the one. Everything that happens simultaneously, and there is nothing better than or less than. And when you start to be honest with yourself and apply this to your life, it's amazing, amazing stuff. It's more you open up.
And this is great, and it takes time. No matter, like you had said, when you're ready, and I guess, how can you prepare yourself? Is there any way that we can prepare ourselves quicker?
We're ready all the time, Justin. We're all ready all the time. And it's not instant coffee, and everybody in the creation is in the right place, the right time, and they're not in the wrong place. And the other thing that's always worth remembering, and our dad taught us this, we cannot lose in this life. Because we come and go many times, we think that's the end, and it's not the end. The death is just as much a beginning as the birth. So when you understand and are honest with yourself and realise this and practice this, it makes it a lot easier. We cannot lose in this life. No matter how we try, we can't lose.
I believe that, and I resonate with that, and it's but if on the same token, if you believe you can lose in this life, that's what you're going to manifest.
Well, that's good. That's good.
So it's so what you're saying basically is, and then of course we go back to biology and everything else, but once you believe and accept a thought. Now you had mentioned something at lunch of conscious, subconscious, conscious being the male dominant deciding part of the mind, the reasoning ability, the choices, and then the female side being a subconscious. We were discussing Neville Goddard, which would be the producer or the garden. How I see the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is the conscious mind being the gardener.
Yeah.
The subconscious mind being the garden.
That's right.
So if the gardener plants a seed of watermelon in a garden, watermelon is all that the garden's going to produce.
That's right.
It won't produce a rose, it won't produce tomatoes.
That's right.
A watermelon is what will come out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's true. You can put it a little bit, another way you can look at it, if you take the conscious mind, it is the creator. The inner mind creates with desire and the greatest imagination you could ever come across. Imagine if you're creating in your mind, create with desire and imagination and feeling. That is the male side of the cycle. That is then conveyed to the subconscious, which is the feminine. And the feminine is where it gives birth to that idea and allows that idea to come to fruition. And this is how we create. And once you start working at that inner level, you can have whatever you want in this life. There is no limit.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of discussion about that, of the abundance that's available to us.
Yes.
Yeah. And I see it, and of course I've experienced my own experiences through life, and I've gotten to the stage where I don't regret any of them. They're all, I can't, you can't look back on it. It's all for the growing of oneself.
Absolutely.
And the evolving of you into you.
Absolutely. And when you start to see yourself in all those, even now, Justin, when I go to a group back in Australia, and there's probably 10 or 15 or 20 of us gather regularly every fortnight, and we have a beautiful gathering, and I say to them, I've come tonight to have a look at myself in every one of you. And they say, oh, but you're on a different level to us. I said, if you can see me on a different level to you, you are also on that level. And that is so profound. When you start to think, what you're seeing is a clear reflection of your own consciousness in every facet of yourself. If I was to change the concept of my consciousness today, my outer concept would change automatically. It would change automatically. I've got an admirer.
Jasmine's taken to Mr. Richard. Mr. Richard is what we call Mr. Richard. So it's been a very interesting 2 months, and this is a time that I will never forget. Mr. Richard has brought a light into our family, into our world that that we obviously attracted for some reason or another, and it has opened my eyes to seeing myself in you, actually.
All you're saying is yourself in me.
Yeah.
It can't be otherwise, Justin. It's impossible.
My wife knows exactly what she's going to have to deal with when I'm 80. She's already said that.
She's a remarkable woman, Justin. I must admit that.
She's a wonderful woman.
Yeah. This is our final conversation, Justin, on the
Final conversation in America for this year.
Yep.
And
in the morning at 6 a.m. I set off for Australia. It's a 30 hours flying time to get me back to Coffs Harbour. So I have...
And you're going to stop off in Vancouver?
For a couple of days. One of the greatest assets I've got is the fact I have 3 loves in life, Justin. Aeroplanes, women and boats. And the fact that I'm going to be 30 hours in an aeroplane, it fills up the love of my life. One of the loves, anyway.
One of the loves.
Yes.
Well, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch you unfold over the next 30, 40, 50 years.
I think so. I don't think we can get any better time than this moment, though. This moment, when you start to ponder how the system works, everything that happens, everything is of everything else that is, and everything that happens unhappens simultaneously in the now, where we live in eternity, within heaven, within our own beingness. Mm-hmm. And that beingness is our consciousness, not the body. It's the consciousness of who we are. God and conscious mind are all the one, and we are that one, without any doubt.
This is definitely an interesting. It's definitely an interesting concept, and in this world where everybody's divided.
But when you look at it, Justin, from within your own self and are honest with yourself, the only person...
The only division I'm seeing is the division
of your own self.
Of my own self.
And once we come to grips with that is the key. This is the teachings of Jesus, it's the teachings of Walter Russell. The whole concept is to realise that we live in a thought wave mirror image universe. And everything is a mirror image of our own consciousness. And there's no ifs and there's no buts about it. And it's in perfect divine order. There's not a thing out of place. And if you can see something out of place, is a clear reflection there's something wrong within your own self. And that all the answers of all the problems we've got in this world today are within man himself. And it's a fascinating awakening when you can get the gist of it. I haven't fully got it, but boy oh boy,
You're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good.
the rewards are great. They really are. You basically seem to get rid of the ego. It seems to disappear. And that you don't seem to... I've been 2 months at the age of just about 80 years of age, working on a computer, and I don't get a bit impatient, and it doesn't bother me, and I just persevere, and everything seems to work out okay.
Yes.
As our dad used to always say, everything always works out for the best.
Yep.
And really speaking, when you know you can't lose, I said this before, we cannot lose in this life. Or we're looking forward and we're opening up into the most remarkable shift in consciousness and the whole evolution, I feel. It's been coming to me recently for the last 9 months. We're opening up to something far greater than ourselves, and now my eyes have been blinded for so long, and now they're starting to open, and we're in for a wonderful awakening. The whole universe is.
Well, that's going to be.
It's exciting.
Yes, it is exciting. It is exciting, and it's needed. It's you know, we're currently battling each other. Religions have divided man through.
I said we're waking up to ourselves, Justin. That's the key to it.
Yeah,
We're waking up to ourselves.
It's a big pill to swallow.
Yeah,
It's a big pill to swallow, and I believe that. I believe that the answers you seek, it's the fault of man that he seeks all the answers in things outside of himself.
That's right.
Tries to find answers in a world of effects,
Yes. never
knowing of the cause.
That's right.
And never knowing of obviously the least known science of all, which is the science of man.
Yeah, but see, what fools us really, it's paradoxical. It appears that something happens in here and it's reflected out there as we know, but we think it's something outside of ourselves that's happening, but it's not. It's only ourselves, the result of the effect of the cause of what we're seeing. And the hardest part to grasp is, if you push my buttons in any way or form, I can change what's pushing my buttons, not by dealing with you. You've got really nothing to do with it, because all it is a reflection of my own consciousness. And when I deal with it in here, you appear to change. In actual fact, you don't change. I'm the one that changes. And that is one of the most, I suppose, the hardest thing of all to come to grips with the fact when you shift, when my concept of you is changed from within here, my concept of you changes completely, and you appear to change, when in actual fact...
Well, there was actually a story in the Bible about somebody needed food and clothing, and then Jesus had come back and said that was I, and in the meaning of that was I.
That's right. Yes.
And I don't remember the exact verse, but he said that was I in the 3 people that came.
Yes.
So it's Christ is one thing that Christ taught is that we're divine light, divine inspiration is in each and every man, each and every woman.
Yes. To me, the Christ is the conscious mind of God within me. That sits well with me, and it'll probably take a long time to shift that. And that's who I am.
Yeah, well, we twisted that around.
I'm sure
we twisted that into all kinds of things.
Had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That it's amazing. It is life is actually just a
remarkable journey.
It is. It is a remarkable journey.
Yeah. And once, as we're waking up, it gets better. My life began at 70, Justin, and it's got better and better and better. Who knows where it's going to end?
Right.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
It gives us some hope for the definitely us younger people some hope for the future. Life starts at 70. I've had several people say that.
You know, I haven't got an ache of pain in my body, and I don't know why. It's amazing.
Well, it's so. What would you recommend for a student of understanding the whys, the hows, the cause of all effects, what would you recommend somebody? Where could they start? Where could they read? What could they? I understand that knowledge is there's academic knowledge which is remembered and repeated, and then there's a universal knowledge that is gained from a divine inspiration, like.
Really speaking, Justin, everybody's already started, and this is the
Oh,
key.
sure,
This is
sure.
the key. And that once you start them, then question. I would say the cause of why things happen. If you know the cause of why you smoke, and it's not got anything to do with smoking, when you tune it and come to grips, is what causes us to do something. And it's normally with our consciousness creates
Manifest the reality.
That's right, absolutely. And so when you stop causing something to happen, and that means giving it no thought, number one, and then it gives it no power, and it doesn't exist anymore. Like I gave up smoking within a week. I just stopped telling myself I needed to smoke, knowing that the smoking wasn't the problem. The same applied to glasses. I couldn't read a thing without glasses, couldn't be anywhere without glasses 10 years ago. I just stopped telling myself I needed glasses. When you stop telling yourself something, it's amazing what happens. It's amazing. When something stops happening, doors open. It's not in learning something, Justin, it's in the letting go of. As we let go, the old ways, the beliefs and the fears, let them go and be honest with ourselves and realise that is the key of it, is letting go and letting God. Let God take over your life. Let our consciousness take over who we are. The body is inanimate. It requires no food. It requires no looking after at all. Give no thought to the body. As Jesus said, be as a sparrow in the field.
Be as a sparrow in the field.
But you've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to be honest with yourself. That is so important, a stepping stone. They're all stepping stones to waking up. And
it's been I've been able to spend 2 months with this gentleman, and then last year, we also spent some time together, and he was also a visitor in our home. And I can say unequivocally that he practices and lives and is living proof of his philosophy. And there's a lot of definitely some inspiring. I don't know how you would say it. He's pushed my buttons.
Thank God for that.
But the pushing of the buttons, somebody needs to push them. But I have to say that it's my understanding that we create our world, okay? We create the world around us. We create that which we think. And then when you made a comment that nothing is until you give it a voice. This was also something that struck home. That if you fear something, you've got the thought. Or there's any kind of thought, and then you verbalize that thought, it actually, verbalizing that thought gives it an actual physical manifestation.
Absolutely.
Which goes back into the law of attraction.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that's why birds of a feather flock together.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why we're together. I see myself in you in so many ways. I see a clear reflection of my own self and the issues that you are dealing with. And that's why I've come into your consciousness or into your company, is to wake up a bit more about myself. I want to see, I love seeing myself in everything that catches my attention. And you've caught my attention. I can see the issues that you are dealing with are issues that I've still got to let go of within my own self. When I'm honest with myself.
Well, speed it up a little bit.
I think we ought to finish on that, Justin.
All right, so anyway, if you would like to, Richard Grant from Australia has written 2 books. One book is Nothing Matters, which is out, and we will be selling this on his website called GiveItNoThought.com. And then a new book that's coming out that he's written is called Give It No Thought. So you can check out Richard's blog, learn more about Richard at giveitnothought.com. We are both active. I'm the administrator of the philosophyforum.com, which is philosophyforum.com, and we are both active on that website. And please join us there to talk about things that actually matter. But anyway, we highly recommend everybody take a look at this Walter Russell. He's mentioned Walter Russell. I've mentioned Walter Russell. This great illuminant, very quiet unto himself, but take a look at philosophy.org. And if you're interested in reading The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe, which was written by Glenn Clark, who was a Christian author in seeking of a man that kind of discovered the secrets of the universe and the secret of man. He bumped into Walter Russell and then wrote this actual like interview with Mr. or Dr. Russell.
It's only a small book, just
Oh, it's a 63 pages. It's online. It's free at the University of Science and Philosophy, which is a non-profit organization, at philosophy.org. Again, feel free to contact us at Philosophy Forum, Give It No Thought, or philosophy.org.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Spot on. Okay, thank you.
Spot on, yes. Thank you, Richard.